I wish you a
That'd be great. Thank you. Okay.
WWE, written by James Baldwin.
There's a lot to unpack there. So my first question is about music and your use of music in this scene. The novel clearly has a lot of musical references, right? The title is referring to Beale Street Blues. Throughout the text, there are all these references to B.B. King and Aretha Franklin and Marvin Gaye. So Baldwin is kind of hammering home on this idea of a blues aesthetic, right? This idea that this meditation on works that show how Black folk transcend, right, survive hard times, right? And Fonny and Tish's Baby represents that, right? That's what that represents for them. So for you with music, what do you, when you think about using music for your adaptation, how's it working?
I think about how expensive all those names are that you just said. And that is why there are none of them in that scene. I mean, I'm just being real, I mean, you can write Aretha Franklin all you want in a novel, but we cannot afford to license Aretha Franklin. But the essence of what you're saying is true. I think for us, especially, I wanted to show that scene. It's a 10-minute clip. You don't normally show a 10-minute clip, but the language, to me, contained all the things that are wrapped up in the music, that are wrapped up in the spirit of the blues, the spirit of jazz. And we felt like we were not going to alter the language. And as you'll see a couple of the other clips that we show, some of the things that Mr. Baldwin wrote, this book was published in 1974, were very truthful about his thoughts of what American society was, how it felt, how it functioned, and how Black folks in communal spaces amongst themselves talked about it. Now, when we come back to the other side of this scene, there is an Al Green needle drop for the good times, which we felt like we had to put our foot down and get that. But for me, it was about taking the actual songs, because you're right, he references and he throws some shade on a few other people in that book too. But it was about taking the feeling and the essence of that, and then finding songs that we could actually afford that would function well in the film and function the same way.
When I first saw this clip, the first thing that struck me were the colors, right? How vibrant the color palette is.
And we ain't even done yet, man. It's breaking my heart for y'all to see this, because we ain't done yet. But when we done, and it's like a DCP and everything, and 6K and all that, then the colors gonna be popping. But yeah, they look good right now too. Thank you.
They're gorgeous, right? And if you remember Moonlight, the colors in Moonlight, they look like the ocean, right? They look like the sky. It looks like moonlight. Can you talk to us about this color palette, right, and what you were hoping to achieve with it?
Yeah, I'm from Miami. I've made Moonlight, Medicine for Melancholy, and now this film. The first two films were set in places where I lived, so I knew exactly what those places looked like, how the light functioned. With this, I'm not from Harlem, and I haven't spent a lot of time there. And we went around location scouting for these apartments, these brownstones, and some apartment buildings as well. And we ended up at this apartment building where Thurgood Marshall lived, like as a young lawyer in Harlem. And just the colors, and it wasn't that the place was a museum, but it was one of the last footholds where you go into this building. It's like a 20-story building, and like 90% of it is Black, and 90% of it is still Black-owned from the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s. Of course, people are trying to buy them out, but they're holding all these spaces, and so they're not renovating them because of that. And the colors, the patina in those spaces was just so rich and warm that we thought, oh, even if we have to build a set, we're going to build it in the image of these spaces. And so that's where the color palette for the movie really took root.
One last question. So in this particular scene, and for those who know the novel, you'll see that the adaptation is quite faithful. But there is one subtle difference in this very beginning. That class tension that we see between the two families, all that shade that's going on, in the novel it's even deeper. It's compounded by a really pernicious colorism, right? Fonny's family are called mulattoes, they're very light-skinned, and they think they are superior because of that. Can you talk a little bit about why that theme is muted here?
Yeah, it's one of the few times where you would hear a Hollywood director say the character was written light-skinned, but I cast it dark-skinned. And it was just, but But I don't need to say that because that wasn't the situation. The situation was the actors came in and auditioned, and I was trying to be very, very faithful to the book because I think it gives it this extra layer of something when these two families sit down. Instead, we did it with clothing and hair because Mrs. Hunt walks in with that hair because we had this. So this is one of the best things about making this movie, man. The same hair person who used to work on 227 as an assistant, which was Regina King's first job, also did the hair on Beale Street. And so, and I said to Dr. Ken, when those women walk through that door, I need you to look right at their hair. And these things that I can't do, this whole idea of colorism, all these things, embody it, put it in the class, put it in the way that the quality, like the hem of the dress, the starch, the gloves, oh, Mrs. Hunt's gloves, my goodness, and the hair. And so we put all those things into that. But what I will say is Stephan James came in and auditioned to be Fonny. And when you see the full film, you will see he is Fonny. And he is just darker skinned than Fonny was written in the book. And from that point on, because he just did such a great job, I felt like I had to have more fidelity to the actor than I had to have to the source material. And it gave me the opportunity to work with Ingenue Ellis as Mrs. Hunt and Michael Beach, because I did want to still bring a little bit of caramel, something to the family. And there's three of them, there's Fonny, Sheila, and Adrian, so there was a way to show how the genes, a little bit of this and all of that. But I just wanted to work with Ingenue, and because we cast Stephan, I was allowed to work with Ingenue Ellis as Mrs. Hunt. And as y'all saw from that little taste, she is amazing. Because when we come back in from that second half of the scene, when she says, "And who was gonna raise this baby?" The father. And anyway, I mean, I've been working on the movie so long, I just quote it, but we did keep one of those because Baldwin, intellectual, academic, Harvard, Yale, whatever, Baldwin was hood. And we allow the hoodness of the second half of this conversation. We give it full reach. And so one of the funniest lines we kept, even though the actress isn't as light-skinned as Baldwin wrote in the book. Long-winded answer to say, we cast the best actors. All right, so we're going to show this next clip, which won't be as long as the first clip. It'll actually be the shortest clip. It's only 2 minutes. But in adapting this book, there's certain passages that just don't have anything to do with the narrative. They function with the characters, but they don't drive the story. And I thought I have to have at least one or two of these. And this is one of those ones where I realized I could not write this. One, I'm not James Baldwin. Two, I'm not a woman. But I also felt like I hadn't seen this. And I felt like I'd seen my aunt sit around and have this conversation, or a conversation that functioned in this way. So I want y'all to watch this clip real quick, and then I'll explain how I had to force it into the film, so to speak. Yeah.